Welcome to Shadowproof. Evidence first, noise last.
In today's 21st century, insomnia seems to be a common phenomenon. According to a study, in Vietnam, 1 in 5 people suffers from insomnia. This shows that even if you yourself do not have insomnia, there are certainly people around you suffering from this problem. In the 1980s, a man with a tense expression hurriedly sought out a famous sleep specialist of that time named Pietro Catelli. He told the doctor that he had been unable to sleep for many days, and this was a family curse that had lasted for 200 years. In his family, whenever someone suffered from insomnia, they would die within a year. As account, the doctor couldn't. He told the patient that no one in the world dies from insomnia. Afterward, over the next few days, the doctor made every effort to treat his patient. Not long after, the doctor discovered that no matter how strong a sedative he prescribed, this patient still couldn't fall asleep. Since humans cannot go without sleep for too long, if this continued, the patient was truly at risk of losing his life. The doctor immediately searched for documents all over the world, trying to clarify this unprecedented problem. Then he noticed a handwritten document by a Soviet doctor from the World War II era. According to this document, the Soviet Union once attempted to create an army that didn't need to sleep, but in the end, they accidentally created a terrifying zombie force, lacking consciousness and unable to feel pain. And so, through the doctor's investigation, the zombie army from World War II once again appeared before humanity. Today, let's talk about the Soviet zombie army. The setting is September 1939, when World War II began. All warring nations poured their full strength into trying to gain the upper hand in the war. And of course, the Soviet Union was no exception. One day, Soviet experts gathered to discuss ways to enhance soldiers' combat effectiveness. At that time, one expert suggested that if they could create an army that didn't need to sleep, one person could be used like two. As soon as he finished speaking, this expert was immediately severely scolded. The chief officer thought this expert was too foolish because fighting in war is very exhausting. Under such conditions, how could humans possibly not need sleep? Unexpectedly, after the chief officer calmed down, a gentle-looking young man slowly raised his hand and said, "If in an environment with neurological gas, perhaps we could truly create soldiers who don't need rest." Hearing this, the chief officer's eyes suddenly lit up, and he immediately asked the expert to explain further. The expert said that according to what he knew, this neurological gas first appeared in Japan. Its chemical structure is very similar to adrenaline, can stimulate the central nervous system, and is a very strong stimulant. Many Japanese soldiers relied on it to enhance their combat capabilities. And if used in sufficient doses, it could even allow the body to go without sleep for many days. As expected, this expert's proposal was quickly approved by all levels. But the superiors instructed that before applying it to the entire army, specific human trials were needed. In 1940, with the approval of the highest leader Stalin, the forbidden sleep experiment began. The experiment. Gulet was a prison specifically for holy political. At that time, anyone who opposed the Soviet government was sent here. And once you entered, you could forget about ever leaving for the rest of your life. According to statistics, from 1918 to 1960, this prison simultaneously held millions of people. One day, a group of scientists in white coats, escorted by the military, arrived at Gulet prison. They told the warden that they needed 5 tall, sturdy individuals to participate in the experiment. Very quickly afterward, 5 outstanding individuals were selected. They were hooded and transferred to an underground testing area. During the process, they were informed that this was a top-secret national-level experimental project. Being chosen to participate in the experiment was their good fortune. In the next 30 days, they will live in a sealed space. Inside, food, drinks, and even newspapers and magazines have been prepared. They can do whatever they want in that room. There is only one thing strictly forbidden: sleeping. Throughout the process, to ensure they do not fall asleep, neurological gas will be periodically released from the ceiling vent. Scientists will monitor the experiment status at all times through a small window on the door and microphones in the room. In return, after the experiment ends, these prisoners will be set free. Hearing this, the 5 prisoners felt like they had won the lottery and immediately agreed. For them, the next 30 days would be like staying in a high-end hotel room without windows. And after 30 days, what awaited them was the freedom they had long desired. However, they never knew that the outcome would be completely different from what they imagined. According to recorded documents, in the first 3 days, these 5 prisoners were like they were on a honeymoon. At that time, they went to see what delicious food was in the room. After eating their fill, each person told the others about their plans after being released from prison. When they got tired of talking, they took out newspapers and magazines to kill time, everything happening on. But the Nikolai gas continued to be released non-stop. By the 5th day, some began to experience abnormal emotions. They talked to each other about painful pasts, becoming so agitated that they shed tears. This heart-to-heart conversation lasted for more than a day. Afterward, the research staff observed that these people gradually began to hallucinate. They no longer talked to each other but turned to empty spaces, muttering in their own dialects. Some started to look dazed, while others writhed in pain on the floor. This condition persisted continuously for 4 days. Just when the research staff thought this might have reached the human limit, one person suddenly stood up, running back and forth in the room while screaming loudly. As time passed, the experiment participants exhibited increasingly agitated behaviors. They no longer appeared weak, instead, they displayed varying degrees of madness. It was evident that the situation in the room was nearly out of control. At this very moment, one person suddenly smashed the only lighting device in the room. And after the light went out, a long-lost silence descended upon the room. On the 15th day, as each day passed, no sound could be heard from inside the room. Originally, before the experiment began, experts had established a rule. During this process, the door would not be opened before the test ended, and no attempts were made to communicate with those inside. But what they never expected was that the only light source in the room had been smashed. This meant that the experts would be unable to obtain any information about the situation inside. By the 15th day, the scientists decided not to remain silent anymore. They believed that these experiment participants might have already died. And as so, the experiment naturally did not need to continue. However, for safety reasons, they still sent some armed personnel to assist the scientists in entering that small room to investigate. As soon as the room door opened, a foul stench from long-spoiled food rushed into their noses. They cautiously advanced step by step. Not long after, they saw a hairless monster gnawing on something unclear, emitting roars as if from hell. Then, it lunged madly for the armed personnel who had just entered the room. Zombies appeared. For unknown reasons, each of these experiment participants possessed boundless strength. Even though the personnel in the room fired their guns continuously, they could not stop their attacks. It was as if, at that time, these experiment participants felt no pain. Seeing the situation, the experts immediately called for backup support, but there were still some staff members who lost their lives during the struggle. According to subsequent investigations, investigators discovered that one of the test subjects had died long ago, and his body had been scattered all over the room by his companion. One of the remaining individuals died while fighting the armed personnel. The other 3 prisoners were subdued, although still showing signs of life. Their condition could truly be described as shattered bones and mangled flesh. Some had their internal organs spilling out, others had broken ribs. Crucially, based on the state of the wounds, these injuries existed before the armed personnel entered. This means that while their bodies endured such intense pain, they continued to fight as if nothing had happened. Regarding such results, the scientists appeared extremely excited. They believed that once they could withstand the initial sleep deprivation using Nikolai gas, the adrenaline in the human body would rise to unimaginable levels. Under the influence of adrenaline, humans would not only lose the sensation of pain, moreover, they would exhibit unprecedented great strength, akin to zombies. The above experiment was always a top secret of the Soviet Union. Even though rumors had long been circulating outside, the Soviet state never officially acknowledged it. Therefore, until now, most have regarded the sleep deprivation experiment as mere rumor. It wasn't until 1963, after a 17-year-old youth used himself for an experiment, that people discovered that such an experiment might have truly taken place. Modern experiment. In 1963, an American teenager, Randy Gardner, decided with his friend to conduct an experiment on the extreme limits of humans. This experiment challenged how long a person could ultimately go without sleep. The difference from the Soviet experiment lay in this. During the experiment, Randy would not use drugs to stay awake. His friend and the later participating medical team would accompany and support him, hoping Randy remained in a state of alertness. In the early stages of the experiment, Randy sometimes felt drowsy, but similar to the Soviet experiment, after he endured this period, Randy began to show signs of increased motor nerve activity. In a basketball game, Randy even achieved better results than usual. But perhaps due to the absence of nickel-added gas, as soon as Randy became still, he could potentially fall asleep at any moment. Therefore, keeping Randy constantly busy was very important. Finally, with everyone's support, Randy persisted for a total of 11 days and 25 minutes without sleep, becoming the world record holder for the longest time without sleep. Notably, during the sleep deprivation challenge, although Randy showed development in motor aspects, conversely, his sense of touch decreased unexpectedly. When he closed his eyes, he couldn't even tell he was touching a table. Even if someone touched him, Randy had no sensation at all. This reminded people of the Soviet experiment process, making them most surprised that those test subjects also seemed to feel no pain, suggesting those rumors might not have been unfounded. And the patient from the family cursed with insomnia mentioned at the beginning of the video, he also underwent treatment for a year, and indeed, due to inability to sleep, his body weakened leading to death. In his final moments before passing, he signed a body donation form, agreeing to let his doctor, Pietro Catelli, perform an autopsy after his death. The key moment came when the doctor dissected this patient's brain and discovered a large amount of necrosis in the thalamus, which is the crucial organ responsible for human sleep. The doctor immediately conducted further examinations and then discovered prions. In 2019, a pandemic broke out in the US, turning a large number of deer into zombies. Infected deer exhibited tissue necrosis, stiff limbs, increased appetite, and even continuously displayed aggressive behavior towards people, just like zombies. What was astonishing was that when scientists studied the brains and lives of infected deer, they also discovered prions similar to the patient from years ago who was under the curse. This inevitably makes people worry. Could it be that one day, after the virus mutates and infects many people, the infected might also, due to inability to sleep, exhibit zombie-like behavior? Some of you might think, why worry? Why don't we immediately replicate this experiment that the Soviet Union conducted back then? Wouldn't that clearly determine whether humans actually turn into zombies from prolonged sleep deprivation? This experiment, the World Health Organization and various medical organizations, citing the experiment. So what is the truth? Perhaps this is an answer humans should never know. Thank you for watching. If you'd like, you can subscribe to watch future videos, or if you have time, you can check out other videos on this channel. Thank you for watching. If you'd like, you can check out other videos on this channel.
If the proof convinced you, subscribe and open the next case.